So welcome, Kevyn-Eva Norton. Thanks for joining us for a conversation on corporate digital responsibility. Before we jump into the contents of the session, could you just give us a little bit of your background and who you are?
Yes, so Kevyn-Eva Norton. My background is actually a humanist background. I was always interested in literature, philosophy. I studied Russian and Spanish, literature and languages, before then landing in IT in the 90s, where I got into project work, and I've always enjoyed project work because there's a beginning, there's an end, there's a creative process in it. And it was actually my way into technology was interesting because the first time I saw a computer when I was 18, I thought the most boring thing on the planet. I really did not grasp the potential that technology can have. And then it was someone who made me aware that actually programming is also a language, and I speak many languages. And then I got fascinated and I got into programming and started understanding that technology really can take a lot of work off us and give us time to do things that we care about. So back to the humanist side of things.
One of the roles you have at the moment is a member of the Atos scientific community, an advisory body for a global IT company. Could you tell us a little bit more about what the Atos scientific community is and what you're doing there?
The Atos scientific community is a group of around 150 business and technology specialists, all part of Atos, of the global Atos organization. And we were pulled together actually 10 years ago. So I'm not with it 10 years, but the scientific community was founded 10 years ago to have a group of people within the company look into the future, look 5 years into the future, and see what do businesses actually need to do today to prepare for that future. And so that's what we do. We research on topics that we feel are relevant for these upcoming 5 years, and then we publish around that. And the goal is to help our customers prepare.
Your most recent look into the future has come out a while ago and was published in a report called Resolving Digital Dilemmas. How did this report come about, and what does it focus on?
So the report focuses on what are coming from a place where, let's say 5 to 7 years ago, people were thinking, digital is gonna solve everything. Digital is gonna enable us to grow our businesses practically infinitely. And then we realized at the same time where there's the digital native companies coming, and they also disrupt. So actually for the more traditional type of corporations, what happened, it's these digital trends turned into shockwaves, which was actually our report before this one. It's like the shockwaves disrupting complete industries. And so what can we do with that, where there's a certain fragility that's also happening, where we can't guarantee business success in a large scale if we're not very careful on how we approach digital. So this fragility of businesses, especially of global corporate businesses, led us then to look, okay, what are the trends that are coming, and how are we actually as consumers, what are we expecting from technology? And I think we've come to a point where the amount of disruption and the kinds of decisions that we take, if we don't do this carefully, we actually risk harming ourselves as human beings and as a society and as organizations. And so this is, it's a new urgency that we see, and there is a dilemma because we want to make use of digital, and there's the potential to solve problems on a global scale. But how do we do this while respecting privacy, while creating opportunity for everyone by creating an inclusive environment, like not have the digital haves or the digital have-nots, and being sure we don't take choices that actually maybe will cause a lot of damage. For example, do we want to hook up our brain to the cloud? I mean, there's companies researching that, working on that, Neuralink. And it's a decision. Do we want to open that? Because once it's open, it's like there's no way back.
The idea that especially large IT corporations also have a responsibility for the human implications of the tech that they bring to market. Is that something where you have met with approval among, I would say, not just Atos, but technology companies in general? Or is that still a bit of a foreign concept to the classical tech and IT company?
I think we're bringing a topic here that is super relevant. I mean, if you have the discussions around artificial intelligence, where there's not a common understanding between scientists, will there be a general all-knowing, I'm just simplifying, artificial intelligence, or is it just going to be the simple artificial intelligence? It's there. If there is such a thing as general artificial intelligence, we need to prepare. We need to prepare. How do we ensure that this superpower actually stays in a context where we are safe, if that's possible, and where we can work with it, and where we ensure that it's beneficial and that it's not a destructive force. The other force that we see is the force of inequality. At the moment, if you look at the digital superpowers, you have the Facebook, Google, Apple, Amazon, and there's these, they have all the data, they have a lot of knowledge, they have a big advantage over other companies. So other companies are actually looking for ways to ensure there stays sort of an equal playing space. And at the same time also, we need to make sure that we create inclusive environments, because if we create too much of a society where there's digital haves and digital have-nots, and there's winners and losers, we risk big social unrest. If we automate to the extent that we don't reskill people, we create a lot of inequality. So the discussion needs to happen, who actually is responsible for the reskilling? Is it the company? Is it the state? Is it each one of us individually? It's probably a combination. But these kind of discussions are keeping board members and executives and leaders in companies all over the world. It's keeping them busy. And what we're also seeing is that on an individual point of view, and if we look at the younger workforce, there's a longing for ideals. There's a longing for a certain clarity to understand what is the true purpose of a company. Who am I working for? Who am I working with? And what am I making to make the world better? There's in the younger generation, there's this request for purpose, and this request for ideals, and this request for meaning in the workplace is also something that leads to, we need to be conscious about what we do with our digital decisions so that we actually serve a bigger purpose.
I think what's interesting is that we've removed this idea that tech per se is neutral. So while artificial intelligence or the chips might not necessarily be good or bad in themselves, it's about the decisions of how we use them, where we put them, and what we do with them. And these decisions create these tensions that you've just mentioned.
And it's not only the decisions on how we use the technology, it's also the decisions that we program into the technology. And that's where now we have these very strong systems that are starting to take decisions on our behalf. It's like we really need to understand what is the decision basis and the assumptions that we're programming into the software. A good example is the US judicial system, where there's artificial intelligence to help judges take decisions on whether to grant parole or not. And it's actually shown that the decisions are more often negative towards African Americans. And then they looked at people looked at the databases that was used to create these algorithms. And of course, it's based on the history of decisions. So what was actually done is that a certain bias that is there in the judicial system actually gets programmed in further if we don't take care. If we really want to be successful with technology moving forward, we need diversity. We need diverse perspectives. We need diverse kind of intelligence flowing into the software, because it's like we're shaping decision makers, and we need to make sure that they represent us as a society. So we need more women in tech. We need more age difference. We need different kind of logic, like the heart logic, the brain logic, the more the gut feeling type. We need to make sure that we have different perspectives, more artistic view and the more logical view, that we combine these into the software that we create.
I think you're already raising with that one aspect of what you're suggesting in your report as corporate digital responsibility, as a new concept for businesses to take up. Could you explain a bit further what you mean by that phrase, and what other aspects are included?
So corporate digital responsibility is about this having a decision framework that actually takes into consideration these things. What is the long-term outcome, mid-term outcome, short-term outcome of my digital decision? What is the impact on my employees? What is the impact on my customers? What is the impact on society as a whole? What is the impact on humanity? And by taking this into the strategic decision process, by taking this framework or a similar framework into it, and having these points where we pause and where we say, okay, we don't just make the short-term decision, we need to make a more 360-degree decision here. And again, it's like, it's things that theoretically they are happening already today, but it's the implications of our decisions. We just need to be more thorough in following those through, developing scenarios, looking at different scenarios, and then taking decisions.
What kind of implications do you think this has for IT companies today? What might have to change or to be improved in order to be able to actually consider impacts in innovation processes, or even when technology is already in the market? I mean, some impacts only appear down the road.
One thing that comes closely together with this strategic way of thinking is, I think, the way we design technologies. I'm a big proponent of the human-centric design processes, and I'm really happy and thrilled to see actually that many companies of all sizes are applying that. And so one thing is by really being close to the people that you design for, you get the human aspect. You actually understand. If you want to understand where's inertia, where will people opt out, ask them, and understand their needs, and understand where you want to take them. People shaping technology for the future, they're actually taking a step back and saying, maybe we should not design for addiction, or if we design for addiction, which we do, because we want adoption, we want usage. We need to be, again, there. We need to be very aware. Are we creating healthy people, or are we supporting people to be healthy truly, or are we supporting people to become vegetables? But why we feel it's very important to have a corporate digital responsibility is because we need people who understand digital to be in touch with people who understand society, who understand humans, who understand medicine, who understand the other side, let's say, because there's this merging happening between industries, between fields, and digital is just such a strong force that we need to have. That's why we feel we need a dedicated responsibility here, because it's a different kind of knowledge. It's understanding the implications is getting more and more complex. So networking with experts and bringing the right people to the table who understand the impact, who understand the short, mid, long term, is a key to work with this.
The project we're running, and in which context this virtual summit is happening, Living Innovation, deals with responsible innovation. So this is exactly what we're trying to do, get the responsibility people and the innovation people to talk to each other. And we've noticed that in many companies, those two areas is still quite separate. In the sense that many innovation managers we talk to tell us, well, we're responsible for bringing new products to market, and our engineers are solving technological problems. And they're not talking too much yet with the responsibility people, the CSR departments, the CSR managers. Do you think these two areas can actually strengthen each other within the companies? Do they have something to learn from each other?
The ideal would be that we don't need a corporate social responsibility department, but that it's not like a kind of a staff position, that says, okay, we're ticking the boxes, we have our sustainability report, but that actually the thinking of corporate social responsibility, like thinking of corporate digital responsibility, is built into the innovation process. Corporates have done such a great job at connecting us globally. So I've worked in global companies, and I've met people from across the globe. I've been interacting with people from Asia, from Africa, from South America. And of course, we all have a certain type of knowledge. It's still a kind of bubble because it's a corporate bubble, but still it's the awareness that we have of working together and of creating something together, and that we actually like each other across the globe. I think that's a big achievement. And I think now it's the time to take the next step. So what do? We just make sure we don't pollute the planet more. We just make sure we create products that are helping humans grow and develop their potential and become more free. I mean, we have this opportunity of having machines do work for us that is actually unhealthy, that's repetitive, that's bad for our bodies, that's bad for our minds. And we can free up that time and just flourish as human beings. But we need to make sure that we take each other along.
In our previous conversation, you shared that you're also working on other initiatives outside of the Atos scientific community, where you're trying to put these things into practice and use IT, for good societal purposes. And one of these initiatives is called Shadow's Edge. Could you tell me a little bit more about what that is and how that came about?
Shadow's Edge is a game for teenagers, a mobile game for teenagers who are facing serious illnesses, life-threatening illnesses. And what we aim to do with the game is give those teens and young adults a space where they can share about anything, actually, about the dark side of their illness, also about their dreams, their hopes. And the way it works is it's a game with a story. So the story is that a city was shattered by a big storm, and there's only 3 teenagers left in the city, and they're looking for their parents. They're trying to understand what happened. And so you as a player are there to help them find a lost book and the pages of a lost book. And every time you find a page, you get a question. And the question can be something like, what happened, like now with the illness, what actually stays the same? What do you really love about yourself? Or what is it when you got the diagnosis? How was that? What is still unclear to you today? And then through journaling, the more you write, the more the city comes back alive. So animals come back and plants start growing. And then you also have a toolkit where you can draw graffiti on the walls of the city. and you get certain paint tasks also. So, and the idea behind it is that self-expression is good for emotional healing. And yeah, and so the game, how it came about is it was founded by Sherry Sobrato Brisson. She's a cancer survivor herself. On the 20th anniversary of her cancer survivorship, she wanted to give something back. She had been working in hospitals with teens, and she had created a journaling book called Digging Deep, which was a paper journal, and it was handed out to 35,000 copies to US hospitals. And then there was a point where we realized, okay, it's getting too difficult to distribute. And also, if we want to do something for teens and young adults, where do we meet them? And then actually came the idea, we did a digital transformation strategy for her. And then we looked at, okay, so where are the teens? They're on their mobile phones. They spend a lot of time on their mobile phones. And so why not actually try to make better use of that time and give them a tool that's also for them, that's personal, that's private, and where they can also reach out to others and also share.
I'd like to take a look into the future together with you. As you know, our time horizon for the Living Innovation Project is the year 2030. So we're all about of how are we going to live by 2030, and what will innovation have contributed to that life that we will be living in 2030. In the best case, what is your vision of 2030?
In the best case, access and inclusion has continued to spread. So like now the internet, I mean, it's the most lovely thing that nearly everybody on the planet has access to all the knowledge of the planet. So I think that's a key focus we need to keep, is that access and inclusion can make great progress. And I think also inclusion in terms of accessibility, I think our technology can be much more accessible still. And so with whatever kind of body or situation you're in, you should be able to use the technology. And accessibility actually has been a great driver also for innovation. So I see that a lot of innovation is going to come from there, and where I can see that a lot of companies are going to realize that there's actually also a great business case behind that. Then I think in terms of there's a really interesting project that's happening back to the Atos world. It's between the city of Barcelona and the city in Japan. It's about connected care. So we're all getting older, we're living longer. And so how can we use technology to support also the older generation, to stay connected, to stay active, to stay safe, to stay in their homes? So I think there it's this having the right balance of having technology move further into our homes. That's the good side of it, because like if there's an emergency, person can stay at home and really easily ask for help, or can also be through a video connection, can be monitored, or people can see, okay, does somebody need to come in person? That can be a great relief for caretakers. And there I hope we get it right, because if we don't, we are moving into this surveillance type of situations. I do hope we continue to focus, like while I love the technological development, and I can see we can learn a lot about ourselves through technology. I mean, emotional awareness. I think we're at the beginning of our emotional awareness. Most people we are still conditioning each other to not really show our emotions, or that like there's some acceptable emotions, others not. I think there we have a very strong force that we're not making use of. So technology could help us actually read our body signals and maybe say, hey, hello there, you're actually really angry, even if I'm maybe not aware, and then I can learn to deal with my anger. So that would be a great case if we use the technology that way. the bad case would be if I sort of outsource my understanding of myself to a technology. There I see a risk. So now my mobile phone knows better than me how I'm feeling. That would be the bad case. So I think while we're innovating with technology, I think we also really need to innovate with how we're connected to our bodies. And if we're moving to a point where implantables, it's getting more and more, and these decisions about how much technology do we let into our bodies is a key one to actually each one of us to make up our mind. And I think in order to be doing a conscious decision there, we need to focus and be aware of our bodies.
All right. Thank you very much again for taking the time. It has been a lovely conversation.